I don't know if it's going to work out this way, but I had to make an edit point because this just goes on too long. And I'm taking my sweet old time. You could do this a lot faster if you're not talking about it and blabbing. But so far in the first part, we went and installed the, we lubricated the shell, we installed the cylinder head onto the cylinder, and then we put the piston together and an air nozzle and put all the springs on there and the switch, and we're all good. Everything's working. The next point to assembling this version 2 out of an SR10 is I'm going to go ahead and put the switch in. I know some of you guys have different sequences in which you put your gearbox together. Man, it's getting loud in the next garage. Anyway, this spring has a little teeny post that sticks up on the end of it, and then there's a hole in the trigger. Take the trigger as if it's pointing in the right direction, flip it over, and then install the spring and make sure that the little stud on there goes in the hole. And then the next thing you're going to do is you're going to flip it back over, and then you're going to work it in to the gun. Okay, this little spring will be out of the gearbox. Again, with a dental pick or a very small screwdriver, kind of get it locked in there, and then voila, your trigger's in place. Did you see how that happened? It's more practice than it is anything. You just gotta figure it out, my friends. It's not the hardest thing to do, but it just takes a little bit of work. And it's always good to get the switch in there, just have the spring hanging out, and then just put it into place. And it should sit there as long as everything's lined up. It's always good to test it while it's in the gearbox. Put your finger on the post, and then go ahead and pull the trigger, and voila. We're almost there. We're almost done assembling this gearbox. I would suggest that we find the spring to our anti-reverse latch. It was stuck to the motor, so it's a nice little place to keep your metal parts. Stick it to the motor, let it do the work. On most gearboxes, everybody has trouble with the anti-reverse latch. I like to take just a bead of lubricant, silicone gel, silicone lube, whatever the hell it is. It's pure silicone. And then just lay that thing in place. It should stand up. And our next step is go ahead and lube the bevel gear. And then while you're here, go ahead and put some lubricant on the teeth on these gears. Just distribute it. It'll eventually work itself in. It's also okay to do it on here a little bit. And then you don't have to do it all the way around, because when the gun cycles, it never touches the same teeth twice at the same time. I mean, it just doesn't, it rolls around the whole thing, so it's going to distribute the grease. So go ahead and pull back the anti-reverse latch, and then work the bevel gear in, and then just kind of lock it in place. Go ahead and lubricate the studs or the posts. Go ahead and put a strip of lube across that, just in case it runs across the gearbox. And then we're ready to assemble this gearbox. Once we take the spring, put it on the spring guide, make sure that the tight coil of the springs are in the back. Go ahead and run it in there and just lay it like that for now. Make sure everybody's in place. And the next thing you do is you take either a small screwdriver or a hole punch. And I just like using the hole punches because they're small and easy to manipulate. Oh my god, man. I know I'm going to get hell for half the things I say on here. But this is what we're going to do. You're going to hold down the cylinder with your finger, have your gearbox shell nearby, and then you're going to push the spring in and lock the spring guide in. Okay? Now, if you hold up the end of your screwdriver or the hole punch, it will hold everything down into place, allowing you the opportunity to take the upper shell and go ahead and just lay it on top of there. And this is when a dental pick comes in handy again. Go ahead and get the anti-reverse latch pulled into place. You can pull the other gears in place. And since this is a new cylinder head, I'm going to have to push down on it hard like that. And if everything's right, you should be able to pull the trigger, push the air nozzle in and out, and you're good to go. Just like that. We have completely assembled the SR10 gearbox. It's ready to go. All we got to do is clamp it down, and it should be back and running. Some things just need to be lined up just a little bit sometimes the piston doesn't get in the grooves correctly. So go ahead and just, like I said, line everything up, and then get your gearbox screws out. There's a whole bunch of these little gearbox screws that you need to work with. My suggestion, always hand tighten. Don't use an electric screwdriver. Go ahead and tighten these down, but do so just at a little bit of torque, like that. Once it locks in, just lock it in. Don't over tighten your gearbox. It can squeeze the gears. That can cause binding, and then next thing you know, you got a jammed gearbox. So hope you've learned something here. Let me get the nasty rag out of there. But there was so much lube on this gearbox when I started on it. It was just really yucky. But ready to go. Just put all the screws back in, and then you can put it back in the gun, and you're good. So that's basically how to assemble the inside of a version 2 of a SR10 KWA. Again, subscribe to our channel. We're gonna have more videos like this. I'll show you how to actually put gearboxes back into the lower and all that jazz. And sorry I'm not super excited right now. It's like 10 a.m. at the shop, and I woke up this morning and basically generated more snot out of my nose than I've ever seen in my life. I mean, I'm keeping Kleenex in business right now. So the next video I may do at night, which is when I'm usually hopped up on caffeine and Mountain Dew. So the purpose of this is for you to learn something, and hopefully that's what you've done. And subscribe to this channel. The dumb thing's gonna fly in. Subscribe, and then we'll see you out on the airsoft field, and hopefully this gun will be out there shooting some people soon, you know. Wow, that's a long hair that's in, look at that. Where'd that come from?